back to the AllStar MMA live show. We are here on a new day, on a new time. The reason why is because yesterday, um, the Super Bowl happened. You cannot compete with the Super Bowl, so we had to shift it. But we're here, and we are here to recap the the wild weekend at UFC 284 and the aftermath. There's a lot to discuss about the aftermath and what has happened since the show has concluded. Jspec, what do you think about the card? It's probably one of the best cards we've seen in a while, right? A bet, the pay-per-view, the whole thing, top to bottom. What do you think?
As far as the main card was concerned, yeah, it was action packed. It over delivered. I think I think this card got some criticism for star power or names attached to it coming into it, but all participants definitely showed up.
For sure, for sure. And before we get into the main event and talk about what transpired and look at the scorecards and all of that good stuff, make sure you guys hit that subscribe, hit that like, leave a comment if you have an opinion or if you just have anything to say about what we have to say about the fights. It's always good to hear what the people have to say and put your picks in there. Did you get all your picks correct? What I mean, I had a up and down
Yeah,
event. What about you?
dude, right down the middle. 6 wins, 6 losses, 1 draw. So
I gotta look at mine, man. I don't even know what I got. Okay, so I took Volk, I took Yair, Della, Tafa. I took Pedro. So the wins I have would be Yair, Jack Della, Justin Tafa, Kulabal, Rodriguez, Malarkey, Jenkins, Luke Boomy. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 correct, and one was
I'm
a draw, right? So man, my year's looking pretty good, man. My record's pretty damn decent. You know what I mean? I'm gonna have
yeah.
to start actually betting money on these fights. Each one, I put like $10 or something. I don't know, $5 on each fight and see what happens. But until then, let's go to the app and and play with each other over there. No homo. Okay.
We're already
So
doing it. We're already
yeah,
doing it.
yeah, we're already doing it. So get on there, get on the app, get your picks in, play against us. You know what I mean? We want to see the community build up and yeah, and compete. You know what I mean? You guys could win prizes and contests in the app. So do your thing. Now, let's jump into this main event. You guys got man, it was a super fight. It was legit a super fight, and there's a lot of opinions about the result, about the judges' scorecards, and I just wanted to go through each round and discuss each round, and I just wanted to kind of give you a review of like what happened and what were the big moments of each round, and let you decide and even look at the numbers, look at the statistics, and we're gonna have J Spec decide after each round of me discussing it and me giving you the numbers to see who actually won that round or who he thinks won that round. So let's jump into round one. Okay, so in round one, it was a very, very close fight on the feet. You know what I mean? Like, well, until it went to the ground. So if you look at the key moments of round one, the first key moment was Makhachev getting nailed with a straight left by Volkanovski. That happened around the 3-minute 17 mark, and he kind of like made him go back a little bit, right? So that was a key moment that judges are probably looking at as like a very, very significant strike. Then the next key moment was at the 2-minute 10-second mark where Volkanovski got clipped by a left hook, and it kind of made Volkanovski stumble. I don't know if either guy was rocked or not, but in the judge's eyes and somebody that's watching the fight, it looked like it was a significant moment. But then at the 1 minute mark, Makhachev takes down Volkanovski, takes his back, and it looked like he tried for a choke, but it's hard to choke a guy with no neck, right? So it become kind of like a crank, which they didn't consider a submission attempt. Now, when you look at the numbers, right, of that fight and of actually of that round, sorry, of that round, let's look at it. Let me put this on the board. Let's add this over. Okay, so let's look at it. Round one. Okay, after I just told you what happened in round one, if you look at the statistics, you got Makhachev landing 10 strikes, and then you got Volkanovski landing 11 strikes, right? So it's very, very close, the strikes. So if you look at it like that, Jspec, who would you give the first round to?
Man, that's a tough one. You know, when you look at the numbers like that, you kind of gotta. Uh, you're tempted to go Volkanovski. Um, at least I am, but I remember watching it and thinking to myself live, like, wow, like Makhachev is doing a lot better standing up here than I thought. So I feel like when you look at this data, it almost makes you, at least personally, I'm speaking for myself, it makes me conflict myself, contradict myself, and yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so if you look at the key moments, right, of the round, and then when Makachev took him down and controlled him on the ground, right, took his back. That's a big moment in the round. You got to give the round, I think, to Makachev 10-9. You know what I mean? They're close with the amount of strikes that they landed, right? And nobody was like completely like rocked or dropped or anything in that first round. So you got to give it to Makachev. It's clear as day. What do you guys think in the chat? Let me know what you guys thought about the first round. Did you give it to Makachev? Did you give it to Volkanovski? Um, I'm leaning towards Makachev. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna say definitively, but I'm leaning towards Makachev round one. Now you go to round two. Okay, you go to round two, and it was another close round on the feet. Makachev, you know, he gets hit and loses his balance. It looked like if you're watching it in real time, it looks like he kind of gets dropped, so to say, but it looks like he gets hit, he loses his balance, and he falls against the cage. That happened at the 3-minute 55-second mark of the second round. And then Makachev instantly he gets the takedown. He goes for a takedown, gets the takedown. Volk is up instantly. So that kind of was neutralized right there. He didn't like take his back or control him on the ground for an extended period of time. There was a lot of clinching in that round as well, and Volk was reversing the position at moments, and then Makachev clips Volkanovski while he was off balance as well. So when you look at these moments in the fight, a lot of the strikes that land that look like they were significant, to me, it looked like the fighters were just off balance and they weren't really like rocked. You know what I mean? Like they were stanky legged or anything like that. And that moment actually happened at the 1-minute 35 second point. So when you look at those key moments and you look at the statistics, 19-9, both of the fighters landed 19 strikes in that round. So who do you give that round to, J Spec? When you think of those moments in the fight, and then they both landed the same amount of punches or strikes, who do you give that second round to?
This is, I mean, when I think the word debatable might be overused because this is debatable. I mean, what can I say is other than live, and I keep sorry, I have to keep going back to how I felt initially because looking at this, it makes you feel I don't know. It just tells like a slightly different story when you read the data, just like you do. And I'm not taking anything away from it. I think it's great, compelling actually. You know, Volkanovski, um, I believe was how I felt at that time for this round. And looking at it, it's just yeah, dude. I gotta go. I gotta go again one more time, Volkanovski.
Okay, so with this round, this is the round that I think a lot of people thought was the so-called swing round where it's either way, right? It's not like one guy was dominating compared to the other guy. It was just like they were pretty even in this round, and you could almost you could almost give this round a draw, right? Like it was like completely even. Like these guys did the same amount of damage. They were in the same amount of control time. It's just I don't know. It's hard to say who won the second round and who didn't win the second round, right? I think it's very balanced, and when you look at the key moments of that round, man, it's just there's a lot of clinching, man. And like I said, if you look at the statistics, 19-19, it's very very even. It's completely even on strikes. So in real time, it's hard to say what the judges are looking at and what they saw. But that round number two, it's so debatable, completely debatable. Let me
So
know in the
debatable.
chat what you guys think about round number 2 of Volkanovski versus Makhachev. What do you think? Now let's move on to round number 3. Another close round. This one, all 1, 2, 3 close rounds, very close rounds. Makhachev, he gets the takedown. So the first 2 minutes or so, 3 minutes or so, um, not really much happening, right? A lot of little exchanges on the feet. So Makhachev gets the takedown at 225. Volk gets up right away and he reverses the position. I don't know how much you can count that as points, so to say, or like an advantage, but that's what happened at the 225-minute mark. And then Volk blitzes with a combo and Islam falls. I don't know if the referee would count, or not the referee, the judges would count that as a takedown, but at the 31-second point before the round ends, Volk blitzes with the combo, Islam falls to the ground. And then Volk drags Islam to the floor for a moment at 13 seconds left, and then the round ends. Now, when you see that happen, and you look at the round and the strikes landed, you got Islam landing 16 out of 22 and Volk landing 14 out of 37 in that third round. Who would you give that round to, Jspec?
Well, it took me a little second to find the data from last night. We're doing the AllStar watch along party on Twitter, and one of the co-hosts disagreed. I just wanted to bring this up on the previous round. So, we try to judge it, and the co-host actually one Den he wasn't feeling Volkanovski get he thought Makhachev won round 2, but the other co-host Sicko, he thinks that uh that Volk got that round. So I just wanted to bring up for the previous round when we talked about it being real close. This round we were all in agreement. We all agreed that this round should go to Volkanovski.
Round
And
number 3.
yeah, round number 3. And round number 3 now, looking at the data, I feel like it's even more convincing. So
Yeah,
yeah.
the key moments definitely went to Volkanovski. It just Makachev seemed like to land a little bit more on the feet, but the key moments of that round was Volkanovski in round 3. So you got 3 rounds in the books. First round, Makachev is pretty clear. Third round, a lot of people believe Volkanovski, pretty clear. Second round is the one up for debate. Big debate right there, because when you look at
Yeah.
the key moments, if you look at the strikes landed, it's so fucking even. It's
It's
completely even, right? Now,
it's it's almost like unnervingly even when you look at it. It's crazy.
yeah, now when you move on to the championship rounds, right? A lot of people felt like Volkanovski wasn't even gonna make it to these championship rounds, right? People thought he was gonna get he's gonna get finished before then, and also even Makhachev predicted that he would knock out Volkanovski before the championship rounds. And I feel like that kind of maybe had something to do with Makhachev playing on the feet much longer throughout the fight than we anticipated, is because he wanted to get the knockout, right? But he could have got the knockout on the floor. You know what I mean? It's not like he couldn't. I don't understand like why he didn't wrestle more. So round 4, Islam with a lot of control time in this round, right? A lot.
Yeah.
Volk landing more combos in the first 2 minutes. In the first 2 minutes, Volk was landing a little bit more combinations on the feet. But then Islam at the 3-minute 15-second point gets a takedown, takes the back, and locks in the body triangle. And this is an interesting thing as well, though, right? He has a lot of control time, but once he got to the ground and locked in the body triangle, they were kind of like Volk was pretty smart to like push him. I don't know if it was smart to push him against the fence, but he kind of had Islam his back to the fence, and then with his back taken, and he wasn't really able to move anywhere, right? He wasn't able to shift his body, and it was kind of like really uh I don't know if it was luck, but it was very, very like convenient for Volk to be in that position. And then he was like landing strikes continuously, right, from that position. And he was even talking shit to Volkanovski, Volkanovski was talking shit to Islam during that and just punching him, right? He was just like landing
Yeah.
strikes. And I don't know if that was significant, but he was landing strikes and talking to Islam. And Islam really couldn't do anything to him, right? Now, when you look at those key moments in that fourth round, and then you look at the strikes landed, it's crazy. In the fourth round, it's only 4 strikes for Islam and 6 strikes landed for Volkanovski, which is very, very odd, right? But if you look at it like that, who would you give this fourth round to, Jspec?
I remember, you know, the feeling in that round of kind of like, wow, this is actually happening. There was like there's a couple times where Makhachev hit Volk, and you're like, wow, this is actually happening. Like I know we all, not we all. I was one. I was one of representing a batch of people saying that Makhachev's striking skills wasn't going to be able to do anything, and then he really did. Not he switching comma to Volkanovski. Volkanovski did a good job of overall doing as good as anyone could expect, counter grappling Makhachev. And then he got, you know, like in that body lock position. You know what? You try have Makhachev on your back for like 3 minutes. How long was it? How long was he on the back? Like over
Like
3 minutes,
little
huh?
under 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Oh, sorry,
So
3 minutes. 3 minutes. You're right, three
yeah,
minutes.
dude. I mean, let Makhachev be on your back with a body triangle for 3 minutes, anybody on the planet, and just survive it and kind of survive it easily. I got to give him, he made it look easily. I know it was not easy. I know it was not, but he kind of made it look comical. And it was kind of cool to see this, what could be distressful situation for most championship matches. We're in the fourth round, and Volkanovski making it look like, like no chance in hell, bud. So, but in real time, we all came to agreement, everybody in the space and myself, and even looking at this data, that, you know, Makhachev won this round. You know, he just had, it wasn't in the damage department, it was in that control. You know, just having the backpack for, like we said, 3 minutes. You know, that's almost enough in itself.
You guys got to remember the statistics on the screen right now. These are significant strikes. These are just not total strikes. I'm gonna give you guys the total strikes number after we talk about the fifth round. When after we talk about the fifth round. So these are significant strikes. You guys got to remember. So all those strikes that Volkanovski landed from having his back taken for 3 minutes, that probably would not count in significant strikes. Most likely, it's like, what is a significant strike as well? It's like we have no
I was
idea,
just about
right?
to ask that. What is the, like, yeah, what is the specific criteria for that? What, how can you tell? Do they ask the fighters afterwards, hey, did that one hurt or not? Like, how do you know? Because we've all
You
been
don't.
stuck.
You don't.
Yeah,
That's why.
yeah,
That's why it's
it's
stupid.
weird. It's
Um.
weird.
Now, with the fourth round, it's in a way it could be debatable, right? But Makhachev, he controlled that round for 3 minutes, right? So it's hard to say that Volkanovski won that fourth round or even close to it, right? So yeah, so if you look at it, fourth round, a lot of people give it to Makhachev because he controlled him, but he didn't really do much damage, right? And there's like control damage. What is it? Nobody knows. Round 5 was it was the best round of the whole fight. It was it was just fun to watch that fifth round. I think we should just watch that fifth round. You know what I mean? And this like what's funny is, like, we should watch that fifth round and just decide who won that fight with the fifth round. And that's what a lot of people thought, right? A lot of people thought, I thought the fight was tied up going into the fifth round. It's like whoever wins this last round should win the fight. This is what I thought, right? But I guess I was wrong because the judges scored it for Makhachev. So if you look at the fifth round, early in the round, around 4 minutes and 14 seconds, Makhachev, man, he beautiful step in knee with the left hand, right? That was very, very significant in that round. And then in the clinch, Volk was landing punches. This was like at the 3 minute 47 mark. Volk was landing punches. Islam would landed a couple knees. That's another solid exchange, another key moment of that round. And then at 3:13, Islam gets a takedown. Volk gets up right away. 2:35, there was a grappling exchange. Islam was chasing the single leg. Volk escapes that takedown attempt, and then Volk clinches at 1 minute 32 seconds and gets kind of like a quick wizard style like takedown, but not really. It's not really like a takedown because there was no takedowns by Volkanovski, but they had a pretty solid grappling exchange at that moment. Then the big moment, right? The key moment of that round was at 1 minute 9 seconds. That's when Volk drops Islam with the straight right hand, and then just ensues with just implements just solid, heavy ground and pound for the rest of that round. I think Volkanovski maybe has some of the best ground and pound we've ever seen in that featherweight division. Maybe he does have the best ground and pound. I don't know why he doesn't do that more often, because we've seen it in the past. We've seen it against Ortega, right? Just him just pounding away, and he did it to Islam at lightweight. So in the 5th round, you look at those key moments and what he did, and then you look at significant strikes. Volk landed 20 to Islam's 8. So the final round is kind of clear, right? That Volkanovski won that last round in most people's
Yeah,
eyes.
yeah, that was one we all live, everybody in the group, we were all pretty much agreed on that one. Yeah, it was a great fight. I mean, great fight. It was all the stuff you said. All the stuff you said. A great round to a great fight, great capper, good back and forth, but had that, like you said, that almost perfectly timed period where Volk just had his moment, had his way with Makhachev landing that ground and pound that, like, honestly, arguable. That's something to argue about on Twitter. Pound for pound, ground and pound. Shit, I think it might be Volkanovski, dude.
All right, so now if you look at the rounds, right, round by round, before we give like kind of like our final analysis of the fight, let me give you the total numbers for this fight. You got 1 knockdown for Volkanovski to none by Makhachev. Total strikes landed 164 for Volkanovski, 95 for Makhachev. Significant strikes 70 to Islam's 57. Head strikes 37 to Islam's 36, so pretty much dead even. Head strikes, body shots 21 to 18, pretty damn close as well. And then leg kicks, much more landed by Volkanovski, 12 to 3. And control time, of course, goes to Makhachev, 7 minutes and 37 seconds to Volkanovski's 2 minutes and 55 seconds. And you got to throw in the takedowns, 4 takedowns by Makhachev. Now, if you go with, like, let's say pride rules, or like, let's say one championship judging, if you go by that, we're just saying if you go by that, Volkanovski wins that fight. Like, that's very clear. If you know how they judge fights in pride, if you know how they judge fights in one championship, Volkanovski would have won that fight easily. But it's not one championship. It's not pride. It's UFC. It is unified rules. I believe unified rules. Yeah, unified rules.
Yeah.
And round 1, Makhachev. Round 2, toss up. Round 3, Volkanovski. Round 4, Makhachev. Round 5, Volkanovski. So round 2 basically is it's like, who do you give round 2 to? And that's who wins the fight. You know what I mean? And then some people might argue that round 4 could have went to Volkanovski. If you don't think, because some people think like, oh, if you take the back, if you don't do nothing with it, it doesn't really count as much. You know what I mean? This is just people's thoughts, right? But in the judge's eyes, that counts a lot, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so let's
But
so what do you think? Do you
you,
think
you
Volkanovski won this fight, or do you look at Islam as the winner?
it's tough now looking back. I feel like that second round is such a swinger. In real life, in real time, I score that round for Mahashev. But now, in retrospect, I can actually agree a little bit more with you and Sicko, who advocated that round 2 should go to Volkanovski. So, man, I'm a little conflicted when I look back. I'm usually not. I'm pretty much like always, hey, what I saw live, I have no problem with. That's what I saw. That's what I'm going with. That's what the judges got to deal with. They don't get this data. They don't get this retrospective feeling. And I don't know, man, that second round is really, really debatable. So I get where fans can be sore about it. But 2 out of 3 of us, me and Den live, gave that round to Makhachev. So yeah, I guess I gotta stick with. You know what? Just for the sake of consistency and not being flaky, I gotta stick with my original vote. And even though that evidence of second round is pretty compelling, and I don't fault anybody who scored that second round for Volk.
Well, if you look at the judges, right? All 3 judges gave round 2 to Makhachev. All 3 judges. And then the third round was the one that was somewhat debatable, which is weird because we think the second round was debatable. Is that what? Yeah, the second round,
Yeah,
right? So if you
yeah.
got Ben Cartlidge, he gives the third round to Volkanovski, and then the third round to Volkanovski, and the third round to Volkanovski is David Lethaby, and then Derek clearly gives the third round to Makhachev. So the second round, these judges thought that Makhachev won that round.
Huh.
That's pretty wild, right? Like,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
do you guys what do you guys think? Leave your thoughts in the comments, guys. What do you guys think about what happened in that second round? Do you think the third round was very clear for was the third round the one that was the swing round? Was that round the round that was more competitive compared to the second round? From me watching the fight again last night, I just thought that the second round was just the most competitive round out of all the rounds to me. This is just my thoughts on that round. But it doesn't matter, man. Makhachev won that fight. The judges scored it for Makhachev. We're not going to change the result. So what we need to do is figure out what's next. What do we do? What's coming up? Like, who should Makhachev fight next? Hey, you guys, give your opinions like in the chat. Who do you think Makhachev should fight next? Should they do the rematch with Volkanovski? Should it be Dariush? Should it be the winner of Dariush and Oliveira? Do you want Oliveira to fight Makhachev again, since Makhachev pretty much dominated Oliveira, right? That was a pretty dominant performance. Like, I don't like the idea of when a champion or like when a guy fights somebody after they dominated him, like so clearly. You know what I mean? It was like he ran over him. He steamrolled him. Like Makhachev steamrolled Oliveira. Like he went in there and submitted him. He beat him at his craft, right?
Yeah,
Jiu-jitsu,
yeah,
right? Like he choked him out. Like I don't understand like how one win could put you back into that fight. If Volkanovski had won and they were looking at Oliveira, Dariush winner versus Volkanovski, yeah, I could see that. But I don't know, man. It's a trip. MMA Jesus, he says, I rather Dariush, but makes more sense to do the winner of Dariush Oliveira. A lot of people believe that. A lot of people believe that the winner of Dariush Oliveira should get Makhachev, but I think Dariush should get the title shot if he wins. If Oliveira wins, then you got to look at maybe Justin Gaethje and Rafael Fiziev. If Fiziev wins, maybe you give the shot to Fiziev. Then you got Chandler versus Connor coming up as well. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure the UFC is looking at that. I don't think the UFC is going to commit to anything right now. I think Makhachev is going to go back home. He's going to chill out, and the UFC is going to decide in the next couple of months. I don't think they're going to be like pushing Makhachev into a matchup real fast. You know what I mean? Maybe they're talking to Volkanovski and seeing if Volkanovski could go again at lightweight. You know what I mean? If he wants to rematch, who knows? You know what I mean? But what do you think, Jspec? Who do you think is the rightful heir to the next title shot?
Well, I will definitely answer that, but I just want to say that Islam deserves a little bit of rest. He just completed a big challenge. His title was on the line against a very capable fighter, and there was no penalty for Volkanovski to lose here. So I think that Mashev should, chill, not announce any fights too soon. But the rightful person, I believe, is the probably the winner of Oliveira Dariush. But I don't want it to be Oliveira. That makes me, hurt to say that, because I agree with you on the simple fact that the championship bout between Makhachev and Oliveira was one-sided, and it doesn't really need to have a rematch right away. I kind of want Dariush, and that's just my pick. I think Dariush and Oliveira, excuse me, Makhachev is the proper succession of the lightweight title. On the other hand, I'm also open to what you said with Fiziev. I really think that the champ, should really get like whatever he wants next, and then it'll be interesting if he who he picks, or if it doesn't even work out that way. I don't know. Like, does he get favor from the UFC now because he took that super fight? Does it work out that he kind of gets a little bit of, all right, you get to say so what's next? I don't know. I don't really know how that works. I would suppose that you get let your champion defend choose who they're defending against. But anyways, I don't know.
Hype MMA. He's saying if Dariush and Oliver is in, yeah, man. If they're fighting in May, I say like kill that matchup because it's not even official. It's not even official, right? The fight's not even official. I don't even see it on any card coming up. If they're waiting for that long, they need to just throw Dariush the title shot right away, and then have because right now we're in February. We're in early February, mid-February, right? So if that fight they're trying to schedule for May, why not just push it to even in May or even in June, right? It just give Darius a title shot. Just give it to him. You know what I mean? Like he's earned it. He's fought everybody that he needs to fight. And they were already matched up in the past, right? I don't remember exactly what happened to that fight, but I think maybe Islam pulled out. I'm not for sure, or maybe Darius pulled out. I don't know, but that fight was going to happen a few years ago, or maybe even last year. Anyways, I think Darius should get the next title shot. Volkanovski, he'll most likely be back down at featherweight and defending the title against Yair Rodriguez. We'll get to Yair Rodriguez in a bit. Before we get to Yair, let's talk about this tweet by Dan Hooker, right? Dan Hooker's tweets. Let's talk about that. Let's get into that. What do you guys think about Dan Hooker's tweets? The accusations that Dan has thrown out about IVs being used in Australia, and Jspec, could you read the tweets? Do you have the tweets up? Could you pop those up real quick and see if we can put those up? Let me see. Let me go to Twitter and get these tweets. But let me just get your reaction. I got the tweets. Go. What do you think about these allegations?
Well, I can't speak on that events that I wasn't there for, but I can tell you this. I can't tell you this for sure. And I'm not going to put anybody's names out there because I don't want anybody to get in trouble. But I definitely know for sure, for a motherfucking fact, fighters use IVs to rehydrate. And I know you're not supposed to, right? Is it illegal? I don't even know if it's illegal. But if it is illegal, I'm not telling who did it. The point is, yeah, I know for a fact stateside. I was literally there for a regional fight in an organization that has 3 letters. Yeah, they do that. They do that. That's and shit. It's part of the game. I think it's part of the game that everybody already knows and has been widely accepted. I think accepted to a point, because if Dan's having a problem with it, which he should, because he's made weight go in horrible circumstances without cheating. So with that being said, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's real. It's 100% real, bro.
Well, here's the tweets, right? So yesterday, it started with right here, 16 hours ago, right? Dan says, dumb cunt thinks he can fly to Australia, hire a nurse to give him an IV, and we won't find out. Cheating dog, right? So at that point, at that tweet, when it came out, we didn't know who he was talking about, right? We had no idea. We could speculate, but we had no idea. Then he puts up another post about USADA doing fuck all. So he's just telling us that USADA ain't doing shit about, people cheating in the UFC. Then he says, prove me wrong. Bet you can't. He doesn't cheat. He doesn't win. And then he reveals who he's talking about. Islam is a cheat. So he's saying that Islam is the one that hired a nurse in Australia to get the IVs after the weigh-ins, basically. And if you look back, let me go back to over here, and we'll go back to the rules so you guys understand like what exactly is happening with the rules, right? So if you look here, IV infusions are prohibited in the UFC. It says right here, all UFC athletes are subject to UFC prohibited list, which incorporates the World Anti-Doping Agency WADA prohibition list. Under the rules, IVs are prohibited at all times, including those used for rehydration, Below, as important is the IV rule. Why IVs are prohibited. Right here, they say it right here. Okay, at the bottom right here, it says both in and out of competition, except for those legitimately received in and out of competition in the course of hospital treatments, surgical procedures, clinical diagnostics, investigations, and or those received that are determined to be medically justified and within the standard of care by a licensed physician and administered by a licensed medical professional without an approval TUE. Now, that gives you a clear understanding of like why IVs are illegal, right? And sometimes people say IVs are used to, clean the system, all kinds of stuff, rehydrate. They wanted to get rid of all of that stuff. This was years ago, right? We talked about this. So Dan is pretty much saying, before we get to Dan, it says IVs hydration, if I recall, is a USADA banned item. So regionally, 3-letter promotions would be okay. Wow. Well, isn't
Oh
USADA?
shit.
What does he say? He
He's
says,
saying USADA doesn't govern some of those small regional dudes, so it's part of their governance. It might not be illegal for
"Oh
everybody.
yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure IVs are being used in other promotions, but in the UFC, right? Its watchdog is what? USADA. So like USADA is not allowing in the UFC. You cannot use IVs unless there is an exemption. There is some loophole there's always a loophole in USADA. We saw it with Conor McGregor, right? We saw it with other people that are using that loophole, retiring and getting on some extra vitamins and then re-entering the testing pool, right? Which we found out that's possible now. Anyways, I think Fury fights on Instagram, or not on Instagram, on Twitter. He also mentioned that he's from Vegas as well. Fury fights, right?
No,
Fury fight.
I actually don't. I don't.
All right, let me go find Fury fights. Let me go find his tweet and yeah. So when you think of that, like, give us some more details about what's going on. Okay, give us some more details of like what you heard, Jspec, about the IVs being used.
Oh, so well, the thing with that is like it's like I said, it's like an understood. What I want to use the word. Sometimes in competition, and everybody who's competed, there's everybody understands it's like this small, thin, gray line area of stuff that is just kind of understood that people kind of fudge around and it's commonly tampered with, but it's kind of just goes, like I said, part of the game. So I know it's often more a problem. I mean, it could be a problem for any weight class, but I know it's a problem for the lighter weight classes for sure. Like anybody in the 25 range is the burden of proof is tough. Yeah. So with that being said, the lower weight classes tend to suffer from what I personally seen from doing this more often. I don't know, man. It's like I said, it's kind of a weird understood gray area of cheating where many people do it. And I don't even want to limit it to the lower weight classes. I'm just saying what I've seen with my own eyes. So yeah. Also, like, let's think about this. Like, is that healthy, right? Like, to a degree, aren't we responsible for the benefit and the image of our own sport? And if we like continue to allow this type of cheating to happen, which is probably, like I said, really not good for your body, to push your body to those points, like, I mean, any backlash that happens, any organ failure, or God bless everybody and hope none of this happens, but any bad thing that could happen from this, that's all going to come back to our beloved sport. So I don't know. It's definitely I don't I know it's a problem, and just like every other problem we've had that's glaring and obvious in our sport, it eventually gets chopped, and maybe let cheating hydration be the next one.
Yeah, Shorts Enjoy says burden of proof is on the accuser. Bro, love the channel. Also rooting for Volk too. Yeah, man. Appreciate you. And Omar has something important to say. Omar, yeah, you're back. Thank you for coming back, Omar. I mean, UFC for years allowed it. I'm not defending it, but the whole reason it was banned because it was possibly cover up drug use. You're exactly right, Omar. That was why it was banned. And also it was banned because of the weight cutting issue as well, man. If you have IVs, you're gonna be able to cut more weight, right? And push your body, like you said, Jspec. You've seen UFC fighters use IVs. I've never seen UFC fighters use any IVs, but as a person that covers the sport and has been around the sport and has been, you know, I guess on the inside somewhat, I've heard stories about fighters using IVs the whole time, even with USADA. You know what I mean? They found a way to use IVs. You know what I mean? Like there's always a way to cheat the system, right? And some guys have found a way to cheat the system. And the bad part about that is there's guys that are following the system, doing it the right way, being clean because they want a clean sport. And then you got other guys that are not being clean and saying that they want a clean sport. You know what I mean? Like that's the problem. That's where this conflicts, right? And I think that's what Dan is angry about because he wants people to be clean and follow the rules and fight fair and not try to take advantage and twist the rules and find loopholes and shit like that. Let's look at what it says. Guys, are we just talking about IVs or are we talking about the validity of the accusation? Do you think there is any validity? We're talking about IVs right now, right? The validity of the accusation, I just told you, and there's a lot of people that know that are insiders that fighters are using IVs. Are we saying that Islam uses? I don't know. Like I didn't see him. I don't know. I'm not in Perth, right? So
Right.
I have no
Right.
idea. But there has been I've heard things, right?
And as the level, oh, sorry, I was gonna say, as the consequences, someone might not do something at a certain point in their career, but as the level increases, as the stakes get higher, as you say, the temptation and stuff happens. Someone who probably didn't do it before will do it later. Like I said, that's all. The IV thing is real. People are using it on the reg,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Zanab Usman, he says Dan Hooker with his fake news. It could be. We don't know for sure. You know what I mean? We don't know for sure. But that is a
Yeah, I wasn't
major,
there.
that's a major accusation to have, man. He must, from knowing Dan, he must have some kind of proof, right? He's not just gonna throw stuff out there like that. He's not just gonna accuse people. Because the thing is, you can accuse people of all kinds of stuff, right? Every day. You know what I mean? You could go online and accuse people of all kinds of things, right? Especially, you know what I mean, like in certain positions that people are in. But I never really seen Dan accuse people of anything like this before,
Well,
to be honest.
what if it's because this is a topic that hits close to home with him, right? We're gonna have to ask him because isn't that fight that he had with Hakprasad, right? Is that fight didn't wasn't that fight both of them had like last minute, you gotta fly across the planet, make weight under duress. Wasn't that like he had a tough one? I'm pretty sure I'm remembering this correctly. I don't have the greatest memory. I'm a regular dude.
Yeah.
But Dan had to, like, I mean, suck it up to make weight, and like I said, on super short notice while traveling all kinds of stuff, right? Like, so I'm sure when a person does it honestly from the heart, and does it the hard way, yeah, when someone, you see somebody else doing it the easy route, it pisses you off. I think anybody at work, working anywhere, doing anything can feel that. So this, I don't know if like I said, back to the original part, I don't know if this is true. I started my original answer with I wasn't there, so I can't speak on it, but I believe I have why wouldn't I believe Dan at least a little bit, enough to question this some more? That's
Yeah,
what I think.
just me from knowing him, you know what I mean? Like I don't think he would just throw accusations out there without any kind of proof. But I'm not saying he's guilty. I'm not saying he's guilty because I don't know. I've never seen the proof. I have no idea. I'm just saying that this is something that has happened and people have seen this happen. You know what I mean? I've heard things. Look, let me put this up there. Fury's fight picks, right? This guy, he's been around the game for a long time. He lives in Las Vegas, and in his tweet, he says fighters do this in Vegas all the time. For your information, not saying that it's right, but it's not uncommon. I know some nurses who give IVs to UFC fighters. To me, I believe Fury, right? Fury has no reason to lie as well, right? This guy, you know what I mean? And he's not saying that Islam was taking IVs. He's just saying he's seen it. He's in Vegas. He's in the inside, right? He knows what's going on. and you get to hear things. You're privileged to things, and I've also heard things in the past as well that fighters are taking IVs, and it kind of sucks that
I
they
was
are.
dead ass in the hotel room. It's weird,
Yeah.
dude. And you're like, is this
Jose
good for
Young,
you?
I understand what Hooker is saying, but as an accuser, you need proof, not just speculation. You're right. You're completely right, Mr. Young. It's like saying you should prove you are innocent, which doesn't really seem to make sense. Exactly. Nowadays, in this world, you are guilty until you're proven innocent, right? A lot of times. And I feel like, I don't like to go with that. I like to go with what it should be. It should be you should be innocent until you're proven guilty. So give Islam the benefit of the doubt. Give him that performance. Give both those guys that performance. You know what I mean? It was an incredible fight, one of the best fights we've ever seen in that octagon, one of the best title fights we've ever seen, just back and forth, the highest level of MMA. The highest of both those guys, all around incredible fighters. They're at the end of the day, when they are done, they're going to be on Mount Rushmore of whatever division of just Hall of Fame, all of that stuff. You got to give them their flowers, man. Um, let's see,
Most definitely.
police is MMA fan, right? With all due respect, the tone of the conversation assumes he is guilty. You have the right to think that, but I don't. I'm saying I just said that I feel like we should, understand that he's innocent. I checked his IG stories. He was hammered out of his mind when he was tweeting those accusations. Yeah, but I don't know, man. I don't think you should be tweeting if you're hammered out of your mind, especially those accusations. I think that Dan is not. He's not going to say that he was hammered out of his mouth. Maybe he is. I don't know. But let's see what it says. Makhachev versus Derek. We were talking about that about 15 minutes ago. If you guys missed our breakdown of the fight, Makhachev versus Volkanovski, we spent like the first 30 minutes of the show talking about each round and scoring it. So go back and watch that and leave a comment down below and what you thought about the fight and maybe do you feel like there should be a rematch or do you like they're used to get an immediate title shot? What do you guys think? I mean, this is becoming the largest story of the fight. He should provide some evidence. You're right. You're right. It is becoming the largest story of the fight. And what can you do, man? That's what the world of MMA is about. The world is MMA is about just craziness, just wildness. It's just sometimes it becomes, so wild that the fights are forgotten about. What do you got, Jspec?
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, man, when we watch these fights live, that's our whole attention and focus is on that. And the narratives we create beforehand, such as Makhachev is having trouble making weight. It's a hard cut for him. All these kind of stuff. It's crazy how these rumors, and we don't, like I said, it's unconfirmed allegation at this point, so it's borderline a rumor. Well, it's all the same stuff, really. So when you have the beginning story of a story and the ending of a story, it's people just kind of bring them together and just kind of make it one whole truth. I just want to make it clear for myself too. Like, we're not saying it is true. We're just saying this is the circle that's being created by narratives. This is why it's important to watch what you say, people.
Yeah, you
But
do. You do. You
yeah,
do. But when fighters accuse other fighters of things, we have to take it seriously. You know what I mean? Unless it's
yes.
like a Colby Covington or something like that. Then you know what.
Yeah, we know people who've ran their public credit card too many times. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
certain people have a lot of credit. They don't bring stuff up much. But on the other hand, right? I'm sorry for the dumb question, but why are IVs banned? Are they like steroids or something? Real quick, just to sum up what we said earlier, you can run it back and get the full explanation. But apparently, it's most there to stop people from hiding the using of PEDs. By using these IVs, I guess it's an advanced way to mask yourself from your PEDs being in your system. I was on the other side of it. I only knew of it as your ability to basically uh, over dehydrate yourself to make a weight class and then get all your fluids back in your body, and not feel that drop off in performance that
Mhm.
people do when they go too far in their weight cut.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. It was banned because it can be used as something to mask steroids or PEDs, and also it's to kind of limit people from cutting so much weight, right, and rehydrating to get much bigger when they return to the cage. You know what I mean? Like, I think only California is the one that measures your weight on fight day. Let's go get to Omar. Omar, did you see Volk? He kind of laughed about it when he hinted to it. If it was for real, sure, I think Volk would have been a lot more pissed. Yes, Volk would have been pissed, but Volk is also a guy he's a guy that's not just gonna like go out there and act crazy and talk crazy about somebody, right? That's just not in his character. If you've seen any of his interviews, if you've seen him, how he carries himself, he's not that type. Dan, he don't give a fuck, right? Dan is a different animal. If he sees something, if he thinks something that's art, he's gonna put you out there on blast. Zanab, if Dan had anything, he would have reported it to the UFC. Maybe he did report something to the UFC. I don't know. Maybe maybe the, maybe the UFC doesn't do shit. Even if you do report anything to the UFC, and that's why he's putting it online to get the public outrage, and then maybe that will force the UFC to do something. That will force the USADA to do something, right? It seems like we haven't heard much from USADA lately. You know what I mean? So USADA's been very, very quiet, right? You know what I mean? Lot of silence from USADA. We haven't really heard from him too much. So, anyways, Tristan, what's going on, Tristan? Johnny Hendricks was the king of IVs used back in the day. Hey, everybody was the king of IV used back in the days. Everybody was using it. If you weren't using it, I don't understand why.
Right.
Why were you not using it when it was legal, right? That's just the best way to rehydrate, right? You don't have to drink all that water. You know what I mean? It's not. Why would you not use it? But to get public outrage, he should provide evidence. You're right, man. You're right.
That's
You're right.
good point.
He should provide evidence, and maybe he does have evidence and he's waiting. Who knows? We don't know. We're gonna have to see this story play out now, right? Just like how the James Krause situation. You know what I mean? We're gonna have to see how that plays out as well. We haven't heard anything in a couple of weeks, in a couple of months now, it seems like, about James Krause. But I feel like something's coming up. Something's gonna blast off soon. But yeah, now the biggest story in MMA is was Islam using IVs, and then now it opens up the whole Pandora's box of like who else has been using IVs
Oh
for
my
years
God,
now, right? And it's gonna come up, man. It's gonna come up. Okay,
dude!
it's gonna come up.
Spin around a circle and just point like that's everybody. I
All
don't.
right, we might have an expert come on right now and give us his thoughts on like this whole situation. Well, just wait. We'll see. I got somebody cooking right now, so let's see
Oh,
if
that's what's up.
he pops up. Police, yeah, laugh out loud, James Krause. Yeah, there was a lot of evidence against him, but then a lot of that evidence was misinterpreted as well. Okay, so we do have to wait. But also in this Islam situation, we do have to wait as well. We have to see if there's
Yes.
any evidence. Do not jump to conclusions. I know a lot of people's like their emotions take over, right? Like they like Volk, or they dislike Islam, or they don't like Habib, or they like Habib, or they like Islam, or they don't like this team, or they don't like, because there's people connected to everybody, right? Some people they don't like. It's weird. Some people they don't like Israel Adesanya, so they don't like Volkanovski because they're connected with their teams and all that, or they don't like New Zealand, Australia because that is anything to do with that area they don't like, or they don't like the Dagestanis because there's a lot of like those emotions playing out in MMA, and I don't think you should, judge somebody with your emotions, right? Just don't do that. You know what I mean? In this situation, you guys got to sit back and wait and watch what happens, because it could be a huge hit. If this is true, it could be a huge hit to MMA in general, to the UFC in general. Okay, so you guys got to keep your mind open to the situation. Don't jump off the plank, with
I
anybody.
I'll jump in and say I don't want it to be true. I do not want it to be true just for that reason. Literally for that reason alone. Besides, individual consequences. But no, what it means to the whole sport, what it means to all those fans. Like, let's be honest. Can we be honest? 100%. The sport has taken some shots in the credibility area recently, and not getting good press on a lot of fronts. I I love this sport. You love this sport. We all love this sport. We don't want any more crap to jump onto its name We already have this betting scandal that unfortunately will stick with us. We don't need another human health and safety, you know, scandal. We don't need one. We really don't.
Yeah, we don't, man. And yeah, man, you're right. There has been a lot of negativity. Uh-oh, here we go. We got the man. He's gonna give us some expert opinions. Let's get him on. Cody, what's going on, man?
What up?
How you doing, man? How's life treating you?
It's going.
It's going all right, man. We've been digging into this whole IV situation, right? And you've been around the game for years now, and IVs have been used years ago, and it's probably still being used in other promotions, not in the UFC. But I've heard for many years now that since it was banned, people were still using IVs in the UFC. It was just they were never caught doing it. Now Dan throws a fire on Twitter. What do you think, man, of this whole situation?
I remember when we used to do IVs, and then they said we couldn't do IVs anymore. And they said, and my first question was, well, how are you going to know if I do an IV? And they said, because we would all get, like, I had a buddy who was trained jiu-jitsu with me, who was a doctor. And so he would meet us at, like, wherever we were going. He drove down to LA one time, like 4 hours to come and give us IVs. So it was like, I don't know how they're going to know, but they had told us, oh, well, there's something in the plastic that they can test for. And so that was why that's how they could know. So I actually, I didn't like the IVs personally.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I understand rehydrating, and I get that could be a helpful way to do it, but I didn't like it. So I did it, I think 3 or 4 times, and then I stopped doing it because I just didn't like doing the IVs. It kind of made me feel sluggish. I don't know why, but I don't know if they told us that it was just like a wise tale that it's just to scare us from doing it, or if they actually test for some sort of plastic detection in your bloodstream. I don't know. I stopped doing it, and that was the end of it for me, and I haven't thought about it much since. So the claim is that he did an IV after the weigh-ins, and how does Dan Hooker know this?
I don't know. That's the thing. That's the whole argument now. Is like, where's the proof? You know what I mean?
If you're
Where
going to
is he
make the
getting this?
accusation,
He must have some proof, right? He must have something there, like because he says he hired a nurse, so maybe he knows a nurse, the nurse that was hired to give the IV. That's you see, there's so much up to speculation now. You know what I mean? Like he creates this fire, and but I'm just saying, like, I'm not accusing Islam of anything. You know what I mean? Because that would just be stupid for me to do that. Because that I don't want to accuse fighters of anything, but there has been rumors. People have seen fighters use IVs, and I've heard these rumors. Well, yeah, I've heard these rumors as well in the past, and now he's just bringing it out to the forefront. I believe Jose Aldo was suspended for using an IV.
was he? I don't remember hearing that.
Yeah, I don't remember hearing that either, but I don't know. I don't know.
You never
Somebody
hear
in the
about
chat.
guys. You never hear about guys really getting in trouble for using IVs. Like I don't ever remember a story where like this guy got a slap on the wrist from a state athletic commission or SADA or something for using an IV.
Cody,
I wonder if it just hasn't been enforced.
Well, that's kind of going along the question I wanted to ask you. So you said you used it and you didn't like the way it made you feel, right? Now, let's say obviously when you fight somebody who popped for PEDs, you're like, man, fuck you. You're cheating, right? Now, this obviously is cheating, but like you said, it's kind of an area where a lot of people, I mean, it's kind of understood that a lot of people do it. You as a fighter, do you feel cheated if somebody was hydrating this way and you didn't? Do you feel that same kind of cheating aspect as PEDs?
I mean, it doesn't seem like it's as impactful as PEDs could be. If they changed the rule today and said we could use IVs, I don't think I would use IVs still. But I mean, at the end of the day, you want it to be an even playing field, Whatever the rules are, everybody should follow those rules. If you disagree with the rules, then Yeah, go talk to Den Thomas. He's like our representative now or something or what?
Fight advocate, right? Yeah, I mean, yeah, perfectly right. If people got to speak up in mass if there's a big problem and people want to address it. So, well,
But
thank you for
I
asking
would
the question.
yeah, to go on that, like if someone I found out was using an IV, to me it wouldn't feel the same if someone was using like a PED that was like really helped them through their camp. There's just significant. I'm gonna rehydrate without an IV. They say you can rehydrate better with an IV. I just didn't personally like the way it made me feel, so I don't know. But yeah, I think for Dan Hooker, you better have some proof. It's a pretty hefty accusation.
It is, man. I'm gonna put this on the screen right here. This is an article from 2015 from Low Kick MMA, and it says here, it wasn't long ago that UFC featherweight champion Joel stated publicly that he would completely disregard the newly brought in IV rehydration ban. Jose Aldo was just out there just saying like, "Fuck everybody, I'm still using." It says right here, this is his comment: "I will continue to do IV. I don't care. I tell them I'm going to eat and do it instead." Aldo said at a press conference, "They won't take me out of the fucking fight. So I don't care. They can say whatever they want, but it's scientifically proved the best way to rehydrate." Well, and then it says later in the article that they were gonna give 2 year. It says even if there wasn't a definitive test now, there could be a 2 to 3 years from now. But he said they were gonna give fighters 2-year suspensions if they were used. So Jose Aldo was he never got caught with IVs. It's just he said that he was just going to continue using IVs. So let's just make that clear on this article. This is the thing. Yeah, I've heard the same thing, Cody. That in the IV, like there's plastic, and that they were testing for the plastic, right? And that's how they were going to catch people with the test. But from what I heard is they don't even test for the plastic. This is just what I heard. They don't even test for the plastic anymore. So like they're not even testing for IVs. So I'm pretty sure once fighters maybe got a word of that, they started using IVs again. I don't know, right? We don't know for sure. But yes, if you're accusing somebody of IV use, you definitely do have to have some proof. And from knowing Dan, I think he might have proof because like I don't think he would just go out there and accuse somebody of things like that. I've never seen him accuse anybody of anything unless he knew for sure. I don't think he's ever accused anybody of anything anyways. But yeah, we'll see, man. We got to sit back and wait. Let's move on to the co-main event, man. We spent like an hour on that main event just because of the IV. Like this story is just taking over. But the consequences, if it is true, it's pretty crazy, man. What can happen to Islam if it is true? Josh Emmett, Yair Rodriguez, Cody. I know you're close to Josh. You know what I mean? This was his shot. It was a crazy fight. You know how long it lasted. What did you think of that whole situation? What did you think of just the stylistic matchup heading into the fight and seeing that happen?
I think I was surprised that, I mean, we know what Josh is going to do when he gets in there. You know, he's going to throw heavy shots, heavy right hand hooks and left hooks and dip in and go for it. But I was surprised that if you think about the Calvin Kattar and Giga fight. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah.
He's fighting this explosive kicker. And so he just took him out of kick range for most of the fight and forced him into boxing range with pressure and volume. And it got him tired. And, you know, he ended up dominating the fight more or less. I thought that would be more of a tactic for Josh, is to take him out of kick range by crowding him, forcing him to throw hands, pretty much just hands with you for the most part, as much as you can to keep pressure. But the problem is that Josh is he's a fast twitch muscle explosion kind of fighter, and usually almost like a Michael Chandler, right? They come from the outside, they do a big explosive movement forward, dip in their head or whatever they're doing, and then they throw their combination. So it's like an in and out. You know what I mean? And with the guy like Yair, he just needs that kicking range.
Mm-hmm.
and he's gonna throw those liver kicks. Whether you block him with your forearm or you don't, you're gonna get hurt either way. And it was pretty apparent to me pretty early that that liver kick was going to be a problem all night. Yeah, I mean, I feel for Josh. Me and Josh wrestled together in college. We're good friends. He took me out for my 21st birthday in San Francisco. I'll never forget that. And he didn't get into the sport until I started fighting in college. Like in the summertime, I would fight one time, then I'd go back and wrestle and go to school and come back, do it again the next summer. And he would come to my fights before he ever got into MMA, just with my buddies and drink and have fun. And to see that what he's gone through a lot, man. He's gone through a lot, and injuries, personal stuff. And he's just he's inspired me, just his perseverance. So it was tough to see him fall, but yeah, Yair showed that, man. I think Volk beats him, but he presents challenges that I don't know if people were thinking about as much before. I mean, that was a dominating performance, more or less, you know.
Man, Josh. Oh, before we get into Yair, Josh, man, he is one of the nicest dudes you ever meet in the sport. And like you said, man, he's accomplished a lot, right, in such a short period of time. And he's not a young buck either, man. He's in his late 30s right now. So, you know, like, and then the UFC, I'm gonna be out there and tell you the truth. The UFC fucked him off a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, they screwed him around a little bit. He should have got a title shot a long time ago. You know what I mean? Not like they kind of dragged him along, so to say. You know what I mean? Because they kind of had their own, you know, and you know what the UFC does. They kind of have their own little narrative that they want to play out. But he did get a shot. You know, Yair he was prepared, man. He was prepared, and he went in there and executed perfectly what he needed to do. Yeah, man, those kicks, dude. Like, people talk about Giga being the best kicker. I don't know about that. Yair, man, he's turned into a fucking tornado, dude. Like, he just goes in there with both legs. Right, Jspec? What do you got?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I had the TV down, like turned down. Obviously, we were doing the spaces, so I'm listening to other stuff, and I could hear them still. Like, it was, man. I don't know anything what that's like to have to deal with those kind of kicks, but oh my god, like they were audibly terrifying.
Yeah, whenever I see somebody that kicks that hard, I always think, like, what are the micro fractures that are happening in his leg when every time he lands those types of kicks? You know what I mean? Because imagine just kicking that hard and hitting an elbow, and how hard, you know, like what kind of damage, you know, the elbow. Cody, give me some insight on that. Like, how tough is the elbow compared to, like, let's say, a knee or a leg or whatever?
I mean, it's obviously a stronger bone, but
Mm-hmm.
I've eaten kicks to the forearm. Like, you're trying to block a low kick, like a mid body kick.
Mm-hmm.
He's going high, low, and you're trying to make sure you don't guess wrong.
Yeah.
And man, the forearm will be killer too, man. Like, it could impact the speed of which you could throw a punch, the power of which you could throw a punch. And I think whenever I like spar with a southpaw and they don't utilize the liver kick constantly, I always, especially if it's like a young guy and I talk to him afterwards and they try to get advice, I'm always like, hey man, you have a huge advantage being southpaw because you could throw liver kicks all day. I can kick you on the right with my right leg in the body square as hard as I can. I'm not saying it won't hurt, and I'm not saying I can't. If you broke a rib or something, I could finish a fight that way. But the likelihood of me finishing you with a body kick with my right leg is not even in the same ballpark as if with you on the liver side. So I always tell kids, the younger fighters like that are southpaw, like, hey man, you gotta, if you don't have it down yet, like how to set up your liver kick, that needs to be a focus, because that's why I hate fighting southpaws, because that's like shit.
yeah. Nobody likes that shit, huh? But I think Yair, just watching his last couple performances and watching that fight that we saw him win the title, I think this will be the toughest test for Volkanovski. You know what I mean? I think if Volkanovski has an underrated ground and pound. If Volkanovski can go in there, utilize his wrestling, we've seen now that he can wrestle at a high level, right? Like, there's no question now, right? He can defend. He can probably take down Yair. And if he gets down there and he gets him into that guard, he gets inside that guard and he just wails on him like he did to Ortega, like he did to, Islam in that 5th round. He was fucking Islam up in that 5th round at the end of the fight. He could do the exact same thing, because who did that to Yair? Frankie Edgar. Exactly. Frankie Edgar was dominant in that way. I think Volkanovski can do that to Yair, but if they stay standing, Yair, like you said, those kicks, man. And we've seen Volkanovski eat kicks before. Like he even ate like some kicks from Islam, and we don't really see Islam go for head kicks, but he did in this fight, and he ate some. It's a fun fight, man. I want to see Yair versus Volkanovski, right? As much as the Islam and Volkanovski fight was close, and it was competitive, and it was a beautiful fight to watch, and I would love to see a rematch. I think the fight that they need to do is Yair and Volkanovski next, and let Islam defend the title against a lightweight like Beneil. What do you think should be next for Makhachev? Do you like him to go defend the title against a lightweight, or do you feel like they should do a rematch? That just would be fun.
I'm kind of under the opinion that all this like double champ moving up stuff, I know it's exciting for fans and stuff, but at the end of the day, like you got to think about the guys that are in line in your weight class, and like when you go do something like that, like it takes away that opportunity from those guys that have earned it, So I prefer that they stay their weight classes. If they both continue to clear out their weight classes and there's not really any viable contenders other than rematches, then that'd probably be a good time to do a second one. But yeah, I'd like to see Dariush deserves a shot. There's 45-pounders lined up that are, there's guys for them to fight. There's lots of names out there still. So I don't know. I'd like to see them just fighting in their weight class again personally, but I don't make these decisions,
Yeah, we just have opinions. They're like assholes, right? We all have them. The only ones that matter is it seems like the only one that matters is Hunter. Like Hunter's the man behind the machine now. You know what I mean? A lot of people, I think they starting to realize that. Yeah, hey, whenever that fight does happen, Yair versus Volk, it's going to be an incredible fight. Just phenomenal. I think it's just another one of those like high level, extremely high level. I think both those guys are very well rounded. You know what I mean? They are strikers, but Yair is well rounded. He showed you he can submit people off his back. You know what I mean? Like he could come back and knock you out with 1 second left after losing the whole fight. Like he's that type of guy. To me, that's the greatest knockout in UFC history. Could you name a better knockout? Like a knockout that will never most likely be replicated ever again?
It's one of the best for sure. You're talking about the up elbow?
Yeah. How would you replicate that? Like who could replicate that type of
You're
knockout?
telling me you haven't, after you saw it, you didn't try it in the gym?
Everybody tried it. But can you do it? But actually to do it is like never gonna happen.
Yeah. No, I'll do that too. If I like throw a right hand and I'm going low, I'll come up with that elbow. Like, okay, I gotta try this out.
Yeah. Well, if it does happen again, man, and then I mean, it's hard to do it like he did, where he was basically losing the fight, and then 1 second left, he lured the zombie, because the zombie could have just danced around for the last 10 seconds and won the fight, but he lured him into coming forward and just like wailing punches, and then Yair was just like, whoop. Man, that was incredible. Yair is an incredible talent, man.
You know what's crazy about that fight? Sorry, just to cap out, is the moment Yair wins, fans, as we're watching it live, they immediately get torn up. They go, well, I don't know how I feel about Volkanovski winning now, because I want him to just stay in the weight class and fight this fight. So before the main event even happens, we have fans already clamoring for Volkanovski and Rodriguez. So yeah.
Who else at 145s is there for Volk right now? Who's got another? I'm trying to think.
Arnold Allen. He's fighting Holloway, so if he beats Holloway, then they would push for him to get a title shot as well.
Well, you got to give it to the interim champ, though, right?
Oh, of course. There's without a doubt, Yair gets that fight. You know what I mean? They have to unify the title, man. Unless Volk says, I'm gonna leave the featherweight division. I think there's much better fights for me at lightweight, bigger money, because I think that's what Volk wants to do. Is he wants to chase money and he wants to chase accomplishments as well. And if he already had the featherweight title, you know what I mean? Why not maybe just let that go and say, okay, I'll fight a lightweight contender, beat that guy, and earn a title shot at lightweight again against whoever's the champion, because it doesn't really matter, right? I think that could be a possible path as well for Volkanovski, because he's gained the weight that he needs and he's shown that he could compete with one of the best in the world at lightweight. Why not?
But doesn't it add something to it when they're both champs?
Yeah, but I don't think that they're gonna entertain that again. To be
No?
honest, I don't think so. It's hard to like justify that a second time when you did lose. Who did they give another shot to after they lost? Like after they went up and challenged for the
Not
title?
Izzy tried it and lost.
Yeah.
Who are the other double champs? I'm not going to count Amanda Nunes because
There's no division.
there's no division.
I don't
there's
think
Cejudo. Cejudo did the double champ thing.
But then he left.
And then he left, yeah, which was I don't
When
know.
Connor was 45s and 55s, what
He
happened?
left.
He
He
left
left.
as a double champ?
he never defended either though.
Yeah, he never defended either belt.
And then DC was a double champ, right?
Yeah, but he
Only
actually
defended.
fought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, he's the only one to actually defend.
Yeah, but he didn't lose the fight though when he went up. He actually won the fight, right? He beat Stipe and became double champ, and then he lost the belt after that. I believe that's what happened.
Historically, I don't think anybody went for the double champ, lost, and has ever even had a second chance at it ever
Exactly.
again. I don't think that's ever even been an opportunity for that to happen.
Yeah, it's just sometimes the fight game is so volatile that it's hard to like line that up again perfectly. This one just lined up perfectly, right? Number 1, number 2, pound for pound. You know, he was going to be the backup. You know, the storyline played really well into, and it was in Australia, all of that good stuff. But it's going to be hard, man. So I think this could be a possibility. I don't know for sure, but maybe Volk will just say, like, I'm staying at lightweight, and I'm gonna go chase after the big money. Because you know who's at lightweight that's big money is Connor as well, and that's the big money, right? So, and he wants the biggest fights. But Yair, if he goes back, Yair, of course, without a doubt. Now, there's a couple other like fights or fighters that I wanted to get your thoughts on, Cody. Jack Della, man, is he the truth? Like, this man can fight.
His boxing is really impressive. I still think there's a lot of questions surrounding him, right? We haven't seen him with like a really good wrestler that's going to go in there and take him down, put him in there with a Dagestani and see what happens, you know? But what was weird about his fight with what's the guy's name he fought again?
Randy Brown.
Randy Brown. I actually thought Randy Brown started the fight really well.
Mm-hmm.
Like he looked like using that kind of, he almost has like that John Jones like advantage with his range, you know? And it looked like he was kind of finding his mark a little bit, and then like he like tripped on the canvas, and then the next thing you know, he was getting his ass kicked.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I saw.
Well, he got clipped with the left. He got clipped with the right hook when he was escaping out, and then he got clipped on the chin, and it looked like he slipped at the same time. And then Jack Della kind of pounced and hit him a couple of times, and then locked in that choke real fast, and got that rear naked choke. But the thing about Randy Brown is that he likes to put his hands down in my opinion, too much. And especially against a guy like Jack Della, who has that smooth boxing, and he's not afraid to like go in there and into the fire and try to pick his shots where he can. It was a dangerous fight. But Randy Brown did look good, and he's looked better every single fight. But you know, every coach tells you, man, keep your heads up. Keep your damn heads up all the time, and he gets a little too showboaty sometimes, and that didn't work out for him in this one. But I love Randy Brown, man. The thing is, like, interviewing fighters and following fighters throughout the years, you get to see like them develop inside the octagon, and basically Randy Brown has grown up in the octagon. Like, he got signed with not many fights, looking for a fight. Look at the other guys that were signed looking for a fight in that first season. Sage Northcutt, who doesn't even fight anymore. Well, he might. And then you got what was his name? The guy that CM Punk lost to, Mickey Gall. He's not in the UFC anymore, right? Like, Randy Brown has developed into like basically a top 15 fighter in the world in front of our eyes. And I've gotten to like have the privilege to interview him throughout his whole career. and see that happen. But I'm gonna be realistic, man. He just puts his hands down too much, and we've seen that. There's proof in that, and that's why I thought it would be kind of like his downfall in this fight. But it wasn't really his downfall, but he did have his hands down low. But Jack Della, man, also another guy that I've known since like the regional days when he fought in the regional scene. I didn't expect him to come into the UFC and do like this, to be honest with you. I didn't expect that to be happening with Jack Della. But yeah, man, I think he's a special talent. But like you said, there's a few fights out there that that could be interesting, right? With stylistically. But I believe the UFC is gonna give him like fighter. I think they're gonna give him someone like Vicente Luque or like that style. Someone that can like really be entertaining while taking some risks. Who do you like in that welterweight division? I don't think they'll. Shavkat is a hard one. Shavkat is. I think that's another guy in that welterweight division. He's like a boogeyman as well because that guy I think has 100% finishing rate, undefeated. It's insane, dude. Like that talent. But
he has a fight lined up soon, right?
yeah, I believe so. Yeah, who is he fighting?
Neil.
Oh yeah, Jeff Neal.
That'll be. We'll see if the guy's for real. If he goes out and thrashes Jeff Neal.
Yeah.
That's what happened to Neil Magny recently. Who'd he fight?
Oh, Burns. Burns submitted him.
Oh yeah.
Shavkat did the same as well.
Oh, then he's. I thought he's fighting Neil.
No, Jeff Neal. Neil Magny. Shavkat submitted Neil Magny already.
Oh,
Neil Magny. Now he's fighting Jeff Neal, who's more of a striker from Fortis. He trains out at Fortis MMA.
Yeah.
So that welterweight division is heating up, man. I like some of the guys that are coming up in there, especially Shavkat.
You think Khamzat's gone?
It's hard to say, man. It's hard to say. Like, like whenever fighters say like nobody wants to fight me, it's hard to believe that, to be honest with you, because the UFC forces guys to fight other guys a lot of the times, right? Like they don't give you a choice.
As a fan, we never believe that one. Like that one's like a what? Nobody?
Is there truth to that, Cody? Like nobody wants to fight a certain guy?
I mean, I think when you get up to the top guys in the rankings, you might run into more of that. Like, no, that's not what I want to do. But I think at the end of the day, the leverage is definitely still on the UFC side. So I don't know. I've never been in like a Conor McGregor shoes where on the negotiation table, I'm always like in the guy's shoes who has no leverage. Like, yeah, next week, why not?
Well, the thing is like it's less than 1% of fighters that are in Conor McGregor's shoes, right? Like where you have the leverage. So I don't know.
The question is like, do ranked guys have leverage when the UFC comes at them with a matchup?
I think there's like to a certain degree, right? But they still kind of use the same formula. Because this is the formula I heard, right? They come to you with the first offer. Like, you want to fight this guy? We have this guy for you on this date. And then if you turn that down, the second one they come with, if you turn that one down, then they're not going to come back with you with an offer for a while, right? Until like they rotate through everybody. And then that could be months and months and months. And that's why you see some guys sit out for like 6-9 months, even though they're ready to fight, because they did turn down a fight or they weren't ready the first round. And then the second fight, or the first fight, they wanted it, but then the other guy didn't want it. Or, like there's so much. I could only imagine being a matchmaker, man, because
it doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, it doesn't sound fun. People are like, I want to be a matchmaker. I think I'll be a good matchmaker.
Bullshit, you want that? Yeah. That's one of the worst jobs in the UFC.
Yeah.
No one's going to be happy with your choices. Every time you book a match, someone's like, he should fight so-and-so. And then good luck, like you said, logistics and all that. No way.
Yeah, that's a wild job right there. But yeah, Jack Della, he's going to get a good fight, I think. He has good management as well. But I don't think he holds like any major power, but they're going to try to throw him some animal. Justin Tafa, what you think about that fight? That one was just, you knew someone was getting knocked out in that one, right? It was just like you saw it from the first 30 seconds.
It looked like remnants of Mark Hunt,
Yeah, definitely. Man.
Heavyweight MMA though, it's my favorite.
Is
And
it
people
is it
always
really your favorite, or is that a joke?
It's my if the first round of heavyweight MMA is my favorite MMA. If you tell me it's a heavyweight fight and it goes the distance, I don't want to watch it.
I think the fans agree with you, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we go out, you know, I mean, we do usually do like 90 minutes. We have about 5 minutes left. I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Is point deductions, right? In that first fight of the pay-per-view, in the third round, the referee took a point from Alonzo Menifield for grabbing the fence, right? And we see a lot of referees give warnings after warnings after warnings, right? And never take a point. Like, should point deductions be more prevalent in fighting? Like because should you even get warnings? Because you're a professional fighter, right? Like, you should know what to do and what not to do, especially with penalties, right? Like, what do you think with that whole point deduction thing?
I think with groin shots, you should get a warning. Like, they shouldn't. Oh, I didn't mean to do it. He was moving. Things were happening so fast, you can't always control where the guy moves or where your shot lands. So I mean, if you screwed up and he got hit in the groin, and then you do it again, at that point, I think, okay, well, we got to take a point now. Eye pokes, I feel like if they've warned you about your hand placement, about where you're putting your hands continually throughout the fight, and you continue to do that, and then the guy gets poked, I'm cool with them just taking a point at that point, because they've warned you. So if they haven't warned you at all and they haven't said one word to you about where you're putting your hands, and then you accidentally poke a guy who's coming in the eyes, maybe a warning. I feel like you should be at least get that warning from the official in the fight. You know, like, hey, you can close those hands, and then if you continue to do it. But for me, fence grabs, I think every time a guy grabs a fence, you take a point. I think you'll see a whole lot less fence grabbing. Because I feel like that one's a deliberate. I mean, I know if you're like heading backwards, then you might be reaching, but I don't know. More often than not, it seems like a pretty deliberate way to not get taken down. And
we've seen it all the time, man. We've seen guys grab the fence and the referee do nothing about it.
Did you ever see the old Arlovski fight where he grabbed it through? He was on bottom. Like, he grabs the fence on this side. He pulls himself up over, arm bars the guy. Like, but it was like clear that the cage grab gave him the leverage and to jump over like that to hit the arm bar.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Beautiful.
I'm gonna go find that fight. I want to go see that now.
Yeah.
It was an old one.
Going back to the eye poke thing that you mentioned, yeah, you do see refs now. You could hear them clearly during the fights tell guys to, like, watch your fingers. Don't extend your fingers. That is definitely a warning to the fighter and if that fighter does go in there and continue doing that and then pokes the other guy in the eye, I completely agree. They should take a point. Should they take a point or should they take a half point? Because it seems like if you take a point, that just leads to like a draw. But if you take a half point, the guy could still win. If he won, like, let's say the first 2 rounds, does that seem fair? Does that seem logical?
So if they take a full point, he has to win 2 rounds to get a draw.
Yeah, if he wins the last round, right?
But if they take a half point, he has to win 2 rounds to get a win.
Yeah. So let's say he won the first 2 rounds. In the final round, they took a point from you, and the other guy won the round. Then it's a draw, right? Because it's basically what 28,
28, yeah.
28, 28, right? But if let's say you won the first 2 rounds and then you grabbed the fence in the third round and he won the round, right? It gives him a point and a half, right? So you still won the fight because you won the first 2 rounds, unless you got unless you got 2 penalties in the third round. Because I think someone should win the fight, right? It's hard to say the fight should be a draw, and then it goes back to the fighter pay as well. Like, if you don't win, you don't get your win bonus, which fucking sucks, right? Even though you probably won the fight because you won the first 2 rounds, but because of the point deduction in the third round, you get a draw and nobody gets a win bonus. You know what I mean? Like, it leads into a lot of shit. It leads into a lot of shit, right? Like, when you start taking points and results determine how much you get paid. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's like, what fighters should just be paid a flat fee. Like, why are they getting win bonuses?
I want to turn this a little bit back to just a moment ago when Cody said, "Hey, if he's getting warned about the fingers." All right, so obviously, you've been there, done that, man. You've probably been poked in the eye more than you want to. Um, so would you rather have a point like you said, getting immediately taken for the fence grabbing because it's kind of universal, like known knowledge at this point not to do that, or have your eyes protected more? Because as fans, we've been just saying the only way to protect you guys from the eye poke situation is just start chopping points right away. So I just thought it was interesting when you're like, well, give them a warning for the eye poke thing at first, because you're in there doing it. So if
Well,
if we're
I meant more like in that you're in the middle of the fight, you haven't poked him in the eyes, but the way you're holding your hand, they always tell you to have your fingers up, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Your fingers start going this way, the guy runs into your eye. It's more often than not you poke him in the eyes. But so if in the fight you're sticking your hand out a little bit and the referee warns you proactively, like preemptively, I mean, like before you've actually poked him, hey, put those hands, close those hands, or lift those fingers, or something. They give you some sort of verbal warning. Then you do it, or you continue to use your hands that way. Now you accidentally poke them, then it should just be a point. I don't mean that you accidentally poke them in the eye and they give you a warning and it takes two of those you know what I mean?
Yeah,
gotcha,
yeah,
gotcha,
I see
gotcha.
what you're saying. But Cody, also before you guys go out and fight, the referee comes back and talks to you about the rules, right? To each
Yeah, they have
individual fighter.
a rule meeting where they will go over, things, but it's pretty standard stuff.
Yeah.
But sometimes there'll be somebody that has a question about this or that. I know when we used to have all the controversy over a downed opponent, that was always a question people would ask is like, what is a downed opponent now? When can I knee him in the head? When I can't. Um, I just hate fence grabs because I just think it's deliberate 9 times out of 10.
Respect.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of like it seems like commissions they really don't want to make changes at all. And we do need some changes, man. We need changes to the rules. We need changes to like points. We need changes to judging, or not even changes to the judging, the people who are judging. We need a few changes to that. But yeah, it just seems like the commissions don't give a fuck about it, and which I think a lot of fans that are really invested in the sport, they're angry. And I think, yeah, a lot of fighters, of course, I mean, that's their livelihood. They're probably really I don't know. They're kind of like tired of it because like a lot of I've been in the rule, like in the meetings for the rules, and half the time I'm gonna say this for real. Like half the time, people are not even paying attention to it. Like what's going on?
It's gonna
I'm
take
just
the UFC putting pressure on the commissions, though.
yeah.
At the end of the day, like they care about the UFC coming to their state, and so and so the fans have to put pressure on the UFC to put pressure on the commission. It's almost like a chain of command there, because the commissions themselves, yeah, they don't seem too proactive or motivated to do a whole lot of changes to the sport.
Yeah. Seriously. Well, Cody, man, I appreciate you hopping on, man.
Yeah,
Without any warning, man. It's always good to speak with you. Just hey, what's going on with you, man? Just give us an update of what's happening with you and what's next.
can't give you any updates.
Oh, some secrets.
I can't say anything, so you'll
Okay.
see me soon.
All right. That's good news then, right? That's good news then. All
Yep.
right. All right. We'll be waiting, man. We'll definitely have to hop on for an interview after we
sure.
see something happen.
Hey,
Appreciate you.
once I don't have 47 things on my schedule, I always tell you I'm gonna send you an article on my life. Then I realize like how busy I always am, and I'm just like, what the fuck did I say that? I can't do it. I don't have
It's
time.
all good. It's all good, man. It's all good. No worries, man. But everybody on the live, thank you guys so much for joining in, and we'll be back on Thursday night for another pick show. Yeah, man. Make sure you guys go in the descriptions and download the AllStar app. Hit that subscribe, that like, and comment if you're rewatching the show, and give us your opinions. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys